Hey, one more thing before you go. Have you noticed that the complexities of modern intimacy in an increasing digital world have complicated relationships? I have. Whether you're single, married, or in a relationship, at some point in time, sex and intimacy get lost in the mix. In today's society, we find ourselves navigating a landscape where genuine intimacy seems elusive. The allure of swiping left, right, has replaced the subtleties of genuine attraction and connection. For many, the rat race of life further complicates matters, leaving couples feeling disconnected from the spark that initially drew them together. But fear not. For amidst this sea of uncertainty, there are guides, like my next guest, who is a beacon of hope in the realm of intimacy and conscious relating, who's going to reveal some secrets to help us. That's right, some secrets. So join us in this conversation as we uncover the formula to cultivating profound connections, unlocking our true potential for love and intimacy and sexuality, reigniting passion and genuine connection in our lives through the realm of communication, Tantra, and conscious relating. I'm your host, Michael Herst. Welcome to One More Thing Before You Go. My guest in this episode is Magda Kay. She's an intimacy expert, Tantra teacher, and conscious relating coach. She's an author and founder of the School of Intimacy. Magda's journey is a testament to the transformative power of self-exploration. Raised in a culture where her discussions about sex were taboo, I think that's still in today's society, but we're going to talk about that. She navigated her own path towards self-discovery, eventually embracing Tantra as a means of healing and empowerment. Through her unique blend of Tantra teachings and social psychology, Magda has illuminated pathways to rekindle sensuality and intimacy in everyday life. Her insights have not only transformed her own life, but have also empowered countless individuals to unlock deeper connections and fulfillment in their relationships. Welcome to the show, Magda.
Wow, thank you for this beautiful introduction. I am extremely excited to dive into this today with you.
I am excited about diving into this. What an amazing journey getting to where you're at. I think that the opportunity for us to be able to hopefully inspire, motivate, and educate some people is a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
I like to start at the beginning. I know I told you a little bit about you, but where'd you grow up?
I come from Poland, so this is the country in Europe. It's a post-communist country, so I was born here, raised here, but then when I was about 17, I left. So I spent half of my year just traveling around the world being a digital nomad.
A digital nomad, that kind of works. I mean, in doing that, what did you want to be when you go? I mean, we know where you're at today, right now, but did you have any desire to be anything when you grew up? What did you want to be?
Yes, this question always makes me laugh because it's not like I dreamt of doing this when I was younger. I wanted to be a dancer, and I did dance when I was younger, but let's be honest, I don't think I would really make a good professional dancer. I was into biology. I think I would be very happy in a lab, just like dissecting things and learning about anatomy even more. And I loved psychology. And in the end, psychology brought me to study marketing. So I have masters in business and management because I thought that the only place where I can use my love for psychology and human behavior was marketing. So not true, but that's what I thought back then. So I started pursuing this path. And then life happened, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And here I am, years later, officially working as an intimacy coach, working with couples on their relationships and sex life. So no, not something I planned on happening. Life happened this way, but honestly, it definitely happened for me. I would not trade my life for anything else. I love it, and I am so grateful that I get to do this work.
That in itself, I think, is an amazing thing. We all start off in life, especially coming out of high school, coming out of and going into college or university. We all have these expectations that we feel that was our path and that's the way we're supposed to go. But from my own experience, I understand that sometimes life steps in the way, or life presents itself in such a
Mhm.
way that we get the chance to redefine our purpose, and, redefine our direction
Absolutely.
in life and understand, how that plays maybe a larger factor in connecting with humanity. And, you've done that brilliantly, I think.
Thank you. Yes, I honestly think so. It's, Steve Jobs said that you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And it's so true. When all of the things started unfolding, I thought that, I was struggling with depression. I was in so much pain. I had no idea that it was just the beginning of this whole new direction for my life. So it's definitely incredible. And to be honest, I think had I pursued any other, let's say, goal or career, I think I would have just, fallen into something that
Mm.
society gives us as a template for life, and it wouldn't be mine. And one of the big benefits of just letting life take me without knowing at the time where or how it's going to work out, but I think really the main benefits is that I feel my life belongs to me. I wake up every day and I
Yeah.
do what I really want to do. I get to decide how I want to spend my days. But work doesn't feel like work. I'm so happy to do whatever is required because it never feels like work.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. That really is the way it should be. I mean, we are indoctrinated as kids as we grow up in life that you're supposed to do certain things. You're supposed to do this. You go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you get a paycheck, you go home, you get a family. You have 3 kids or 2.5 kids and a picket fence in the front yard and a dog and a cat. And sometimes life puts us in a different direction. What At what point in your life did that pathway change for you to where you're at, where you're headed now, and how you reach here?
Well, the first moment when that trajectory really shifted was when I was around 25. And I kind of say that I had my midlife crisis just a bit earlier. So this is exactly what you were just saying. I was following what society told me I should. So I went to the best business school. I was abroad working for this big corporation, like, thinking that this is life. This is what it's meant to be about. And then I was in my early 20s and a few things happened. My grandmother died. I was very close to her, and it was the first death in my family, so like first time being faced with the concept of death, of losing someone. Then I had a big health scare. I thought I was going to die. I had a bad test diagnosis, which basically said that I am beginning to develop cancer. By the way, I tell this story in details in my book, No More Faking, which I know we'll get to later. But if anyone likes spicy, crazy, gossipy life stories, like I go in details into this in the book so we don't have to spend too much time on this. But all of these things were happening in my early 20s. And I realized that I am not happy with my life and something needs to change. And, one thing led to another. And boom, here I am on a flight moving to Malaysia. And so I left Europe and I ended up in Southeast Asia. And I ended up working for this company called Mind Valley, which maybe some of you guys are familiar with. It's a really big company, especially now, that deals with personal development. Now, we're talking about, maybe 14 years ago. And when I landed in the office and I started realizing what this company was doing, Michael, I kid you not, I thought to myself, what is this bullshit? Like, I thought everyone was just brainwashed and stupid. I was like, how can anyone believe that? But I had to, explore these topics more because that was my job. And so slowly, slowly, I was opening up for these new ideas, for ideas such as our beliefs shape our reality, and we can change our beliefs, that we have energy, that we have chakras and we can work with this, that we have the pain body, that if it's heavy, it's going to sabotage all of our relationships. So these ideas, I was opening up to these ideas. And then what happened is that I went through a very painful breakup and I was desperate. I was depressed. I actually contemplated suicide and I attempted to hurt myself a couple of times. So I was in a really bad place. Like until today, this was the darkest place I've ever been to. And I remember that feeling of just surrendering to God or whatever was out there, fully letting go, surrendering, because I just couldn't handle this anymore. And I begged for help. And because I had been introduced to all these different tools, then the healer showed up in my space. And honestly, in one session, 1 hour, she healed my depression like this. It was crazy. And so for me, that experience was so life changing. And I remember asking her, "How did you do it?" And she's like, "You can do it too." I'm like, "What do you mean I can do it?" She said, "Everyone can learn to heal themselves and other people." And so I started doing all of these trainings and going deeper and deeper into this conversation. And one of the things I really wanted to explore more were the sexual practices or sexual healing, because I wasn't orgasmic. And in fact, the reason why I was going through all of this depression and the pain was because my relationship ended because I wasn't having orgasm. It's something that he started taking very personally. So of course I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed first that I couldn't orgasm, and then that I lost a relationship because of that. And so I was just asking God, the universe, to give me more and more, to let me learn and heal. And this is how I embark on the journey of my own evolution, my own healing. And then eventually I realized that this is something I want to share. Like I've seen what kind of profound transformation I have gone through because of these teachings. And I honestly felt that everyone should have access to it. So then this is here I am. That's how I started teaching Tantra, intimacy, sexuality to people, eventually building the business that I have today.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It
And
was it was a long answer.
no, that's quite fine. I mean, that's what we're here for. It's really interesting because when you brought up Mind Valley, I haven't heard that in a while, but my wife and I tried Mind Valley, the tapes that they used to sell, and
Oh
because it was
yes.
way back when, before it was like the digital age of the computer, you could just download something.
Yes.
They
Yes, we
sent
had
you.
CDs. Yes. Oh, DVDs, CDs. Yes, yes, yes. A bit of a different era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm familiar with Mind Valley, but we thought the same thing in the very beginning. This is BS, and the fact that it's like, how's this going to fix me? How's it going to fix me? Well, obviously, we've come to a completely different eye line on that ourselves because over, especially my journey, and my family's journey with my journey, it changed perspective on the universe, and it changed perspective on connectivity and the fact that we're all connected in the universe, and that we have source, and that we have opportunity to reach into that and do everything that you just said. We have the opportunity to heal. We have the opportunity to connect. We have the opportunity to take our lives into a more deeper realm of understanding. And now, see, I would embrace going back to Mind Valley because I'm sure it would offer so much more than what I've already learned. But coming through it like you did, I mean, coming through it like you did with the aspect that you tried to take your life, which I'm glad that you didn't, because we wouldn't have this conversation if you had followed through with that.
I'm very glad to.
You, you
Yes.
know, but given that opportunity for you to change your pathway to help enlighten other individuals, I obviously ignited a spark in you that was like immense. Because look where you're at now. I mean, your YouTube channel's got what is it, 77 million views and
um,
counting?
oh, I don't even know how many views I
Yes,
have. That's
I
interesting.
think that's the last time I checked. Um, you mentioned a word. I know we're going to get more deeply into a lot of this, but and this is the first time I've actually been able to discuss this on this podcast in regard to this. But you mentioned Tantra, in that you're a Tantra teacher. Can you help us understand what Tantra is and what a Tantra teacher does?
Yes. So, to be fair, we could spend hours just going into the pure definition of what Tantra is. So I'm going to limit this to what is actually essential and needed. So, Tantra is a spiritual path. It's similar to yoga, but I don't mean just the yoga that most of us are familiar with, which is like a bit of like a fitness class. You can never step on a yoga mat and still be a yogini or a yogi. So I'm talking about a spiritual path. And Tantra is very, very similar to yoga. So historically, basically, Tantra was created in response to yoga because yoga was just for the higher classes, was just for men, and so on. And Tantra was more inclusive. But it is a spiritual practice, meaning the objective for doing Tantra is enlightenment. So this is what it actually is, but what Tantra is today to most people is mostly conscious sexuality. So again, if I go to yoga is basically a lifestyle. It's about the diet that you have. It's a whole medical system. You practice physical asana so that your body can stay in meditation and so you can activate your chakras. You do meditations, you do breath practices, pranayama. This is yoga. Instead, what most people do when they say they do yoga is they mean that they put the leggings on and they go into the class for 1 hour of stretching. And so what we have with Tantra is a bit of a similar thing. It's basically we took just one aspect of Tantra that is what most people are interested in. We commercialized it. So it basically lost the depth, but more people have access to it. So these days, when someone says Tantra, in most cases, what people mean is purely something sexual. And in fact, if you search for Tantra online, most workshops, festivals, sessions, they're going to be around sexuality. There's a lot of nudity. You have a lot of what we call play parties, which are basically sex parties, but conscious sex parties. A lot of people who are in tantric communities practice polyamory. And so these days, this is kind of like an assumption that Tantra means an orgy. Tantra means an open relationship. Tantra means being sexually very open or promiscuous. And it's a little bit, sad because this can be an expression of Tantra, but it doesn't have to. So the way I look at Tantra, my definition of Tantra, is that Tantra is basically the art of being intimate with life. So my definition of Tantra is the art of being intimate with life. And what intimacy is the depth of the experience. So the way I look at Tantra is that it allows me to really feel that I am alive. And the way we do it is through sensations, through our senses. So when I listen to sounds, am I actually allowing these sounds to enter every cell of my body? If I taste something, can I really drop deep into the taste? Like, how present can I be with what life gives me? How deeply can I feel all of the emotions? And so it's a bit of, opposite thing to where society is, where we rush nonstop. We try to always move faster. We never stand. We hate being bored. We hate not doing anything. And so we miss the depth. We accomplish a lot of things. We move really, really fast and we get to do so much, but it comes at the expense of depth. So for me, Tantra, it's about bringing the depth back into life. It's not to replace the speed, because I have nothing against speed. I think it's great to be achieving goals, but it's about being able to every now and then pause and really just take in everything that you're building in life and everything that's happening. So that's my approach to Tantra. And then, of course, it's going to impact relationships and sexuality, because I would say these are some of the best spaces for us to really feel alive.
It's interesting. What a brilliant opportunity for individuals to really take a time and have a deeper understanding of ourselves, our lives, and our own sexuality, as well as intimacy. I think and I mentioned this right before we started. In my life, I have seen many, many things, especially as a cop and working domestic violence and seeing the worst of the worst in people and seeing the best people at their worst. I think in growing up that way and having, I have two daughters that I'm very, very proud of. They're strong, intelligent, beautiful young women who have made a life in this world that contribute back to society in a positive way, and I'm proud of that. But I think at the same time, understanding, I've got one daughter that's married, and her and her husband have been together they celebrated 7-year marriage, but they've been together for
Wow.
11 since high school, actually. And our youngest daughter, she is, unfortunately, at the moment, she is the deep within the digital age. So, the swipe left, swipe right, look at this, give you on this platform or on that platform. You mentioned intimacy earlier and during the conversation, so it kind of brought up this question that I'm about to bring in. I know that there's a difference between intimacy and sex, and whether or not I know that there's intimacy in sex, but in today's digital arena and digital age, do you think that we've lost the Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to call it this. You may call it something differently, but the art of intimacy, the art of
Okay, so oh my, I love that you just said that. So I'll tell you a little thing from my life. So I'm trying to get into TEDx. um like I like challenging the status quo, and I try to bring the conversation around sexuality and intimacy in a lot of unusual places. Like I speak a lot at business conferences, and I kind of weave the topics in. And I honestly believe that platforms like TEDx really should have more conversations like this. And indeed, the topic that I'm pitching is this: the art of intimacy, or in fact, it's intimacy, the forgotten art. Because
you
I
see,
feel like we've
that's
kind
the
of lost
universe talking to
that.
you.
Yes. So I do believe it's art, and I do believe we're kind of forgetting it. Unfortunate, like you mentioned, in the digital age. I think it's really scary, and of course, seeing AI and I mean, I'm sure you've seen this too, where you can get these days like an AI generated boyfriend or a girlfriend, and you can just design them exactly how you would want your partner to be, and they're always going
Uh,
to agree with you and do
I did
exactly
not know
things that
that.
you want, and it's so scary
I did not
because
know that.
yes, it's happening, and I would say it's just a matter of time for this to become mainstream. And it's scary because of course there are benefits to everything, but we are already struggling with really bad or poor social skills.
Yeah,
There is so much, like, these days a lot of young people will not ask someone out in real life.
yeah.
They're going to do it only over the app. There are people are just terrified to tell someone, hey, let's just go for coffee. And so we're kind of losing those skills, and then instead of going to the root and shifting the things, we're finding ways. How can we stay even more disconnected from each other? Like,
Yeah.
how can we just like make sure we kind of numb the pain of being lonely, so we never ever have to relearn how not to be lonely? So it is a bit scary, and I am curious to see how things will evolve, where all of this will go. I don't know what was the recent decision, but I know the US at least wanted to ban TikTok. So that shows
They did.
some they did so it shows some initiatives to control that, because we're aware that it really does have a negative impact on people. But at the same time, you can't stop technology, so it's more about um, giving these young people new tools. But I will add one thing, and I don't know if it's something you've seen with your daughter. I'm hearing stories. I'm 38, right? I'm 38. So I spend most of my time on my computer because most of my work is on my computer. Like I said before, I was a digital nomad, meaning I have the
Hmm.
freedom to work from wherever I want. I just need my computer, but I do need my computer. And I hear stories from people my age or a little bit older saying that their kids see them and they're like, I don't want to be dependent to like on my devices. I don't want to be glued to my computer for work. And so I see this counter move of young people like not wanting to work for a corporation, wanting to be close to nature and
Yeah.
doing jobs that maybe my generation would consider like we wouldn't respect these kind of jobs, but they want to go back to this because they want to do things with their hands. They actually want to be with people. So who knows how it's going to move and change. But it may just happen that there's going to be this counter movement that will actually focus on building communities and people connecting to each other because they'll be just tired of technology. So, fingers crossed, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think I agree with you in regard to that. I think that what I see as well is a shift, especially, I mean, obviously my whole world in my business now is computer, because the only way I have these conversations like this, I mean, you're in Poland, I'm in Arizona, and we're having a conversation like we're sitting across the table from each other. So from that perspective, it's a brilliant opportunity for us to get to know each other. It's a brilliant opportunity for us to have a conversation like this that we can educate and inspire and motivate people. But I don't think that it is something that is beneficial to young people in regard to social skills, because you don't know how to act around individuals. You don't know how to act around a person, or what to do in a situation where you're at a party or a dinner party, or even going into a bar. And I do know my youngest daughter She said she doesn't like to go out to bars because number one, and look, she also was in her defense, she was raised by a cop. Okay, so she goes into these situations and she knows that drinks can get drugged and that there's fights all the time and there's drugs and there's they're too crowded and so she doesn't go in there because of that. She said there's just you go and try to get into a bar and you got to squeeze yourself in there because there's so many people in
Mm,
there and everybody's drunk and everybody's rowdy and everybody's loud and everybody's from that perspective, or it's dangerous at times, kind of a thing. So I do feel that digital has an opportunity for our young people today to be able to at least open the doors for a connection. But I do agree with the fact that they've lost the ability to say, now that we've met and now that we've got to know each other a little bit, do you want to go for a cup of coffee? Would you like to go
mm.
to a movie? Would you like to go, something simple, go to lunch so that we can get to know each other more on a more personal level?
And
Um,
then, it happened a few times. I'm like in a coffee shop working on my computer, and there's a couple, and you can see they're on like the first or the second date. And so, of course, because that's my field of expertise, so I start kind of sneaking on them and gently listening. And I see so many young people really struggle to even have a conversation.
yeah.
I'm not even going to count how many times I see people and like one or both of them are on their phone. So, like, getting to a date, or just not even a date, just going out with someone, it's one challenge. But then being able to like actually maintain a conversation,
Yeah.
it's a different skill. And like one of the things I teach when it comes to dating, I'm not a dating coach, but
Right.
if I ever speak about dating, one of the main things I teach is how to have better conversations. And I know you're a big fan of communication. So, like questions like, oh, where are you from? What do you do? They're so boring and they don't reveal anything. So a good conversation starts with better questions, deeper questions. Um, like open up yourself, because everyone is sitting there longing to open, longing to be vulnerable, but we just don't know how to. And so, if you go out on a date with someone, if you can take this first step to move from this kind of boring small talk into a real conversation that would reveal who both of you are, if you know how to trigger that kind of conversation, the other person will open up to you. People actually want to open up.
I
They just
think
don't
they
know
do.
how to. So if you know how to bring this up, like how to create the space for an honest conversation, you'll see that this first date, it's not going to be just a waste of time or a boring meeting over
Yeah.
coffee. It can turn into one of the best hours of your life if you can invite the other person to go deep. So for me, this is a very essential skill, and I think it's something we will need more and more because we connect online so much. In fact, online has just replaced a lot of face-to-face interactions, and so we don't have that many opportunities in real life to go deep. So I feel like that skill specifically is something we will really need.
Do you think we as couples, and I say we as couples, I'm just saying in totality, we as couples in society have also kind of went down that rabbit hole, and we need to get back to deeper conversations within ourselves. I think people have stopped going to they stopped eating at the dinner table and looking and talking with each other. Back I mean, I grew up. I'm an old guy. Okay, we'll just say I'm just up there. But we when I was a kid, and even growing up as a teenager, and even when I used to go out on dates before my first marriage and my second marriage, you'd have a conversation at a table. You go to eat. My brother-in-law, my sister married a Roman, an Italian, and he came directly from Rome. He spoke hardly any English, and then he brought
Wow.
all of his friends over. So I grew up in like a little mini Italy with this. You can't see my hands. Uh,
Yes.
we were where I learned that the food and laughter and fun and the dinner table would bring people together to have conversations about that. And you could ask people how they're doing. How'd your day go? How was life
Mm.
today? What'd you happen today? What's going on? What happened to you? What's the best thing that happened today? what's the worst thing that you happened today? You have these conversations while you're eating and you're enjoying food and drink and wine and things like this. Nowadays, like you said, you go into a restaurant and everybody, including couples, whether they're married or not, because you see
Yes.
some with wedding rings on,
Yes.
the first thing they do is lay their phones on the table and one's across there and they both get their heads down and they're on their phones. They've lost the art of communication in regard to that. How do you think, I mean, you kind of talked about it for the dating process, but how do we as couples get back to that communication and get back to
Mm.
that deeper level talking and put the phones down, learn how to sit at the table, have a nice meal and learn more about each other, go in depth and put the phone aside?
I'm going to answer this actually in a broader way, if that's okay with you. And I'm happy to move specifically to couples too. But just something that came to me right away that I want to share is this will be true for anyone, regardless of your age, your relationship status, everything. And it's something you mentioned a little bit before, so it kind of stayed with me because you talked about the communication and the relationship with self. You mentioned something like this, and I I've been trying to do this practice that once a week I have a me date. And what I do during a me date is like I have a series of deep questions to get to know myself, to build a deeper understanding of who I am. And so I love asking myself deep questions. And these questions will be like, okay, Magda, is there something you're avoiding? For example, if I think of work, right, this will be a great one. Magda, what do you know you should do that you're avoiding? Why are we avoiding this? And so I try to go really, really deep with that question. I can ask myself, okay, what do I long for? So I am currently single, and a couple of months ago, I was in a funny situation because I met these two guys, and I went out with one, and I wasn't sure, and then the other one. So now it's this again a beautiful opportunity to check with myself. Okay, how do I how did I feel in the presence of the first guy? How did I feel in the presence of the second? Like, what wounds are coming up? What stories am I repeating? So this is something that everyone should do because we really should be focused on building that strong, beautiful relationship, intimate relationship with ourselves. And so if you enter the habit of asking yourself those deeper questions, it only becomes natural to ask other people the same questions. If I have those deep conversations with myself, this is the only conversation I will want to have with someone else. So I feel this is a really good place to start. Because if you're not used to having an honest conversation with yourself, you may really want to have that conversation with your partner, but it will just not actually happen because you'll be too scared, it will be too foreign, too uncomfortable. So this would be my general tip for everyone. I would really start here. But just because you asked about couples specifically, I do want to give couples something as well. I am a big, I'm a massive, let's just say it, I'm a massive fan of date nights. What I honestly believe, and I rarely use the word should, and I'm gonna use the word should now. I honestly believe that every couple should dedicate one evening a week to their relationship. Now, if you're together, for like a few months or something, you're probably like, you prioritize each other. It's not an issue. When you've been together for 10 years, or like you, for example, you've been together for so long, then of course life has other demands and you don't have so much time for each other. And that's okay. But as long as you can dedicate one either full day or one evening just to each other, you'll be fine. This is enough to keep the relationship alive. And in that evening, that time, you're lovers. You go out on dates. This is not about the kids, it's not about the house, it's not about your work, and it's not about the phones. So you can leave the phone at home and you just, for that one evening, you're exploring romance again. You go on dates, you rent a hotel room and make love. And so here is your opportunity to talk. Because if you don't have your devices and you have to spend the whole evening together, you'll see that eventually these deeper questions and deeper conversations will just show up because you will not really know what to do with time. So the situation will invite the deeper conversation to naturally fill up the space.
Which is a brilliant way to regain our sensuality, regain our intimacy, regain our opportunity to reignite the spark that we saw in the first place. Because again,
Absolutely.
30, here I'm going to age myself just a wee bit, but I'm proud of this, right? My wife and I have been married for 35 years now. Or
That's
this,
incredible.
I will say close to 35. It will be 35 years married in September of this year. We've been together for 35 years for sure. And things change and life happens. And when that comes into play, the rat race, as I mentioned in the beginning of the opening, that's the rat race. You got to worry about bills, and you got to worry about the mortgage or the
Yes.
rent or the car payment and the insurance and the price of food and the inflation, and all that stuff starts playing on our minds in regard to how do I take a breather from all that and concentrate on my relationship. I think that working domestic violence for so many years on the police department, I saw relationships falling apart because there was so much else going on around people. They didn't take the time with each other. Then
Yes.
their relationship fell apart. Then they were both angry. Then those anger turned into violence, unfortunately,
Mm.
and things like that. I mean, there were other circumstances that go into that, but that was a lot of what we had during our conversations. So I love your tip, date night, and date night without a phone. I think that brings back conversation, and conversation brings back reigniting. And I love it. I love it. Society has certain taboos and things like that I know that sometimes that prevents us from journeys that we're afraid to take, even with our spouse or our partner,
Mm.
whoever it happens to be, and so forth. How do we overcome like some of those societal taboos and things like that? Can you help us a little bit with that?
It is very true. And it's unfortunate. But if you live in a community where no one talks about, let's say, sex, where everyone thinks it's taboo and you shouldn't talk about this, then you're not going to. So I think looking at the people you surround yourself with, having people around you who would make it more natural and comfortable is essential. And I understand that not everyone has, the luxury that I did of actually moving into a tantric community. Like I lived in an extremely sexually open environment. And so there's nothing that I consider taboo. There is nothing that's going to shock me. Like I've seen it, tried so many things. I'm extremely open. I may not do this. This may cross my boundaries. It may even be unhealthy or illegal, but you can still talk about it to me. So I feel extremely fortunate that I have had an opportunity to be in a community like this. Now, not everyone has the space. However, there are many ways how you can expose yourself to this. So at the minimum, listening to the conversation like we're having, because if you have people openly talk about sex and nudity and pleasure and orgasm and sharing their stories like we are here, then just listening to it like calms your nervous system and it kind of informs your brain that it's okay to talk about this. So that's the first level. Reading books about anything related to sexuality will be also very helpful. Then try having conversations with your friends. You'd be surprised how many people really want to talk about it. We just don't because we're waiting for the invitation from someone, but people really want to. Then you have all of the Facebook groups where you can also be active. And then you can join workshops, you can join festivals, retreats, online courses, online communities. So I think it's really helpful to have your tribe or at least one person that is in your space who makes it okay for you to discuss these taboo topics, because this gives you the strength. It's true with everything in life, right? If let's say if you want to lose weight, everyone says this, be around people who have a certain diet, who move their body, because this way you will start doing this. If you want to make more money, be around people who make more money. Just like allow this energy to rub off of them, just get some of that. And so it's same here. If we want to break some taboos, we got to be around people who have already released the taboo, who speak about this freely, and you'll see that eventually you will have more freedom to talk about this and explore it yourself as well. In my opinion, this is the most important.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think part of unfortunately, part of society, and like in the United States here, there are a number of states, believe it or not, that still have book laws on the books about sodomy and oral sex. Uh,
Oh, I didn't know
That's
that.
a, yeah,
You mean
that
in the US?
yes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
realistically, if you live in a state that's there, that law is still in effect, or a city or county that law is still in effect. Obviously, that creates issues with certain things because people don't want to talk about it. And even if it is happening,
Mm,
we all know it's happening. They're not going to talk about it because if you talk about it too loud, realistically, not. I don't know the statistics because I hadn't thought about. If I thought I would have thought about it prior to this conversation, I should have thought about it. I should say uh, about getting statistics on it, but in reality, we don't know how many people are actually charged with that. I've seen them
mm,
charged in certain situations, but you kind of go, okay, now I understand it in that situation, but in a normal relationship situation, to me, it's the 21st century. You know,
mm. Wow.
not to sound rude, grow up.
Yes, this is pretty crazy. I work because I used to live in Southeast Asia, like we mentioned, Malaysia, and then I stuck around Indonesia, Thailand. So I have quite a few clients from that part of the world. Quite a few people from India or Indians living in Singapore or Malaysia. And so it is really incredible when you realize their conditioning. And for example, oral sex is something you just don't do, right? And I'm not saying for everyone, but quite a few of my couples said, like, look, no, we're not going to do oral sex because it's dirty. And then, you're trying to change someone's sex life for better when they have deep beliefs that the very part of your body
Yeah.
that is engaged in sex, that there's something wrong about that. And so as long as we have those beliefs, well, we will be struggling. Like we have to love and accept all
Yeah.
of the components of our sexuality. But look, I'll tell you this because I don't think people really think about this. There's so much subtle suppression and shaming of sexuality that we don't realize. Think, for example, this: a bathing suit and underwear lingerie. Biologically, there's not a single reason why we would be wearing underwear. Same with bras. Like, yes, if a woman has really big bras, you may need some support, but actually, for an
Right.
average size breast, you don't. No other animal has bras. We
Right.
don't need it. Why is it that we wear it? Like, why is it that on the beach, it's not that, oh, you have to wear socks because, for example, the sand is hot. No, you have to specifically cover the sexual parts of your body.
Yeah.
And so we keep hearing these things all the time. Like, it's actually crazy. We don't realize the subtle shaming of sexuality that is still happening, but we're exposed to this.
Well,
So there's
unfortunately,
still a lot to be done.
I think religion plays a large factor in that.
Yes. Yes.
It's. I grew up in a very Catholic family. I'm not a practicing Catholic any longer. I haven't been for quite some time. I'm spiritual, but I'm not a practicing Catholic. But I know that in certain religions, my grandparents were Southern Baptist, and we've had Protestants, Presbyterians. I mean, there's a whole, just Mormons. I mean, we've got a whole slew across our own family line that all grew up in these different religions, and my grandparents had 9 kids, so of
Wow.
course 9 kids put out a lot of cousins. So, you know, we as cousins stayed in touch. We always had family reunions. Everybody talks, even as cousins. You still talk, and it surprised me immensely as growing up in understanding, especially coming from a Catholic religion. What you said a few minutes ago, that it's you don't do that. It's dirty. It's taboo. You don't do this. You don't do that. For the longest time as a child growing up and going through catechism and going through all the Catholic, the young Catholic schools, they push upon you that sex is not a fun thing. Sex is not for pleasure. Sex is for making babies, and that's all you do. And this is dirty. That's dirty. You don't have oral sex because it's dirty. And as a child, growing up in that environment, growing up in that, listen to that rhetoric and listen to that, being indoctrinated into that. And then, of course, when you continue to go to church, you still hear it. That's why the women all had to wear hats going into church. They had to wear
Mm.
skirts down to their ankles and things like that, because you wear anything shorter than that, then you're unclean. It frustrated me in particular. It frustrated me because I thought, what, and I don't want to go down this road too much. What gives you the right to govern other people's ability to
Mm.
have a relationship, even from an intimate perspective? And that's one of the reasons that I left the Catholic Church. It's only one of the many, but it's one of those reasons because of what you just said earlier. The fact that they place the taboo, they put it in your mindset from the very beginning. And then you think, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that. But then in from a law enforcement perspective, that also begets activity that we arrested people for because they overstepped their bounds because they went, I can't do that, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Situations, kind of a deal. So yes, I think that needs to change. That's a whole nother. We could talk another hour on
Yes,
another show all
but
about that.
I think there is an important element here. And like you said, yes, I mean I can go into like all the conspiracy here, but if you think about it, what drives us to action? It's desire. And
Yeah.
what is the strongest desire? It's a sexual desire. Like, you have men literally risking their whole life, like their families, their whole life, you know, for another woman, let's say. We see this in the animal kingdom. Like what the male is risking its life to get the female. So there's no desire stronger than sexual
Mhm.
desire. So if you want to control people, you gotta remove desire so they don't have the internal motivation to move. And so we've been suppressing sexuality because this way people will do what you say, and whether that's the government or whether that's religion or any other institution. And it's really sad because, I mean, first of all, I don't think anyone can be convinced that sex isn't pleasant. And so I feel like just the reason why this strategy has never fully worked and people have always resisted is because it's pretty damn obvious
Yeah.
that sex feels good. And so people never fully bought into this. But the sad thing about this is that if you think, for example, think about food. Ideally, where you want to be with food is you want to be able to enjoy food without indulging. Like you want to still know your limits and know what is healthy for you. So just have this healthy limits with food, but like go and enjoy it. And it should be the same with sexuality. So
Yeah.
having a healthy, I always say this, having a healthy relationship with sexuality means that you are neutral about sexuality. It doesn't mean you go crazy and have sex with as many people as you want. That's an unhealed relationship. A neutral relationship is that I can talk about sex the same way as I talk about weather. I stay neutral. That is a healthy relationship to sexuality. Meaning, I don't say no too often and I don't say yes too often. I'm balanced. I can actually recognize, do I want it or not? And if I want it, then I can say yes. I can own my desire. But if I don't want it, then I own my boundary and I say no. That ability to feel into what my truth is and then communicating it. Again, we're back to communication. That is a healthy relationship to sexuality. It's not when you don't have it all or where you have it a lot and all the time. And the only way we can learn to balance this is like if you have restrictions, you will never learn to balance things. The same with diets. If you ever try to restrict yourself, you end up yo-yoing and you're never going to have a healthy relationship to food. And it's the same with sexuality. So that narrative of like sex is bad doesn't work. And so I would say first thing to actually having a healthy, neutral relationship to sex, where sex doesn't control you, is to let go of the idea that it's something bad. Create a neutral relationship. And then you'll be able to decide and manage. Like in healthy limits.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. It's brilliant. It's the misconceptions I think go across the country, across the world. That I'm not familiar with. Like I know that some things in Europe and Asia, but I haven't really explored how in depth those restrictions are in those areas in regard to some things. I know that obviously, like United Kingdom has been showing commercials with women in their bras and in underwear for decades before the United States finally went, oh, I guess that's okay for people to do, sort of thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that we as society need to take a serious hard look at how we are allowed to set those boundaries within ourselves. I see, unfortunately, and again, this is I don't want to rabbit hole this because it in today's politics, I see a trend, especially with some of the laws that they're starting to pass here in the United States, that they're putting women back 50, 60, 70 years. And in Arizona's case, 120 years back in time. As a father, as a husband, as an individual that respects women, respects the rights and the absolute value of a woman as an individual and as a person, it offends me immensely
Mm,
what they're doing and how they're doing it in regard to taking the rights of women away to choose what they can and what they can't do with their own bodies. And
mm.
it to me, I think that the society it needs to take a better and a harder look at what politicians are doing within this arena that's taking us back in time to a place where we don't need to be. But actually, that's all something wholly different. Uh,
If I may add to this one, I read an
sure.
awesome thing like yesterday, exactly this one. I read this quote that said, um, we're trying to solve an issue of, less and less people are having kids, the society is getting older. This is an issue, absolutely, from
Um,
political, whatever, all of the aspects of society. It is an issue. And so they say that we're trying to fix the problem by forcing women to have kids instead of maybe addressing an issue. Why is it that women don't want to have kids? Because we have a problem here, and it's the fact that we don't respect women. Like I say,
yeah.
I'm not a mother, but I have so much respect for mothers, and I feel like our society treats motherhood like a side hobby. It's ridiculous. Like we actually don't value life. We don't value these qualities because society should actually be designed around motherhood. We should be obsessing about making sure that women are fertile. We should never ever push a pill on women that is creating so many hormonal problems. We should be coming up with better solutions that also involve men. We should allow women to take time off during their menstruation. Like I think in the US, you guys have 2 months maternity leave, which is just ridiculous.
Well, not
So
everybody. I mean, you have the option of taking 12 weeks, what they call it FMLA, but once you run out of your, it doesn't have to be completely paid. Just to clarify, you have the option of taking 12 weeks of FMLA,
mm,
but you have to have enough sick time and vacation time built up in order to
uh,
use that FMLA. So if you've got 3 weeks worth of vacation left or and no sick time, then you're off for 3 weeks and you have to come back to work.
so for me, that's just ridiculous. All of it is ridiculous. So you can see that the world doesn't cater to intimate needs of women.
Yeah,
And so
I
then
agree.
women don't want to get in relationships. They don't want to be having sex. So many women are consciously celibate these days, and they don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
And then society is all upset while having no issue showing half naked women, like you said, in commercials or movies. Oh, that's fine. But oh, God forbid having a healthy conversation about sexuality. So there's so much still upside down, and I love having conversations like this one with you because I feel that people, again, like the suppression of sexuality never fully worked
Yeah.
because people know it's important. We recognize it's part of who we are, and we never fully gave up. We were always trying to keep the conversation going, and now with podcasts and YouTube channels, we are doing this, and we're inviting people, like all of the people listening here, and thank you for being here. We're inviting people to take part in this conversation, and I think it's important. The more people talk about it, again, back to communication, the more power we have. And we can change. We can start changing how we live our lives and then eventually change the world. So I am positive.
Well, yeah, that's powerful. I mean, it really is. It's a powerful statement, and I do agree that we're inviting all of you to join this conversation in regard to this because I think it's an important factor in life that we need to empower women and not, push them down under the thumb. And yeah, you can't forget, if it wasn't for a woman, we wouldn't be here. And that includes every man that's out there.
Mm.
If it wasn't for your mother being a mother, you would not be here. If it wasn't for your mother nurturing you and being there for you and raising you as from a child, you wouldn't be here. So have more respect. There, I can't slam the desk, but
The air. I can slam the air.
slam the air. What and I know we're getting close to being out of here, but can I ask real quick, what are some of the main mistakes men and women make that lead to losing their love or their relationship? Because relationships, in my opinion, are something you have to work at, even marriage, whether it be marriage or a couple. I've been very, very lucky that my wife and I have worked through our relationships. In fact, we are friends with my ex-wife.
Oh wow, I love
So,
this.
yeah, I mean, to this day, we still are. So, I think that we can help others out if we can talk about what are some of the main mistakes and how do we like catch those or monitor those within
Mm.
ourselves.
The number one thing, the number one reason why couples draw apart is because we start taking each other for granted. There are many other smaller things or like parallel things. It can be a lot of things, but this is the main thing. So there is actually, I think it's called like the law of transparency or something like this. So imagine that I bring you coffee to bed every morning. At the beginning, you're like, whoa, Magda, you're so nice. That's so sweet. We have a little ritual and you really appreciate it. And I feel appreciated. So I want to do it for you. And it's all cute. And then one day, I don't bring you coffee. And you're like, what the heck? Magda, where's my coffee? Right? Because now you demand it. Or basically, what starts happening is that I bring you coffee and you don't say thank you and you don't appreciate it because you get so used to it. So, what happens in relationships is that we start taking our partner for granted. We start taking their kindness and their love for granted. We start allowing ourselves to be our worst. This is the problem. Like when I work with couples who have been together for a long time, it's so funny because couples always complain, oh, if he changes, if she changes. I'm like, well, have you ever looked at yourself? Do you think that you're a good partner? I get it that maybe your wife, your husband isn't the best partner for you now, but are you a good partner? Because you're not. You're far from being a good partner because you start showing up. So always appreciate it. And now, because we understand psychologically that this is how the brain works, the brain stops noticing things that happen all the time. A little tip for couples is to switch things around. If you do little gestures for each other, if you have your little habits, change them every now and then so that the brain can never get used to them. If you bring your partner coffee, maybe like go away for a few days so he or she doesn't get coffee. Like you want to break it. This is like all the gambling rules, right? You want to make sure that sometimes they get the reward and sometimes they don't. And it's not about manipulation, it's just understanding human psychology. When we go back to the date nights, if you know that once a week you have time that is dedicated to each other, to your relationship, then even if for 5 days a week you take each other for granted, but then you have this one moment when you're fully present and conscious with each other, that will be enough to keep the relationship going. But you have to be breaking these patterns of just assuming, well, my partner will never leave, or, well, that's fine because that's my partner. They can see me at my worst. No, your partner can always leave. And your partner is amazing, even if you're not seeing their best side. Never take each other for granted. For me, that is the main problem. We start taking each other for granted. We stop respecting each other. Like when I see some couples talk to each other, I'm just like, how can you say say any of these things to another human being? Even your enemy.
Right.
Would you even talk to your enemy like this? And you tell me that you love this guy or you love this woman? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's brilliant, by the way, everything that you said, very profound. I think that we all need to take that time to make sure that we don't take somebody for granted. And, sometimes we have to learn that or relearn that within our lives and always pay attention to it. It is My wife makes me tea in the mornings, and I always say thank you. Always, if she does, puts my contacts in. Oh, I say thank you. She does. I still have some disabilities that I deal with, so she'll comb my hair. See, she did a great job. I still have hair at my age. She she.
But you're
I
so
say thank
young.
you.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I always say thank you. I think thank you is a very important concept
Yes.
that needs to be brought back into daily conversations in regard to be grateful. Be grateful for
Hmm.
who you're with and how you're with and the individual that's with you and why they're there. Be grateful that you wake up to that individual every morning. Be grateful that that person is still there and that they're still in interactive relationship with you, whether it be, even if you've started losing your intimacy, you've just given us a tool to help opening that door again to bringing intimacy back to us. And I think that that's an opportunity for us all to be able to take a look at, which brings me to this. You are a brilliant, an amazing opportunity for courses and for conversations and for coaching and a book. And I mean, there was so much stuff I would fill up 3 screens on here. So let's talk about how somebody can get a hold of you and what you offer and what you can do for us.
Thank you so much. It's lovely seeing all these things on the screen. So yes, I actually want to share something. I have some exciting news. So this month, I am celebrating 1 year anniversary of my book, No More Faking It. And it's a book that I recommend to everyone, but it's written for women in mind, though I've had a lot of men get the book as well, and I love that. But I cannot recommend this book enough to women. It's about like regaining that relationship to yourself. You know, when I was speaking before about having the deep conversation with yourself, asking those deep questions to yourself. In the book, I share a system of working with your 4 power centers. And this is what I do. So when I have my me dates, what I do is I ask my 4 power centers, what do you think about this? Did you like this guy? Do we want to go on a second date with this guy? Should I take this business opportunity? Should I go to the gym? Do I move houses? I talk to my 4 power centers. So inside of the book, you're going to learn what these 4 power centers are. I'm gonna give you the name here just to give you some sneak peek. But it's your head, your heart, your gut, and your pussy. So you want to have a relationship with all 4 power centers. So it massively changes how confident you feel in life about making decisions. Like it allows you to own your yes and own your no. Which remember when we spoke about sexuality, I said that a healthy relationship to sexuality is when I want something, I can say yes. And when I don't want something, I can say no. And that system is my go to system to be able to source my yes and my no. And to celebrate 1 year anniversary, the Kindle version of the book for this month only is offered for $1. So go to Amazon, any local Amazon, and grab yourself a Kindle version for just $1. If you prefer a physical book or audio, we got this as well. So check it out. And then, yes, you guys have a lot of other beautiful, for those of you watching the video, we have a beautiful screens. And thank you, Michael, for this so much. So guys, I have a lot of online courses, but the easiest way is that all of these courses are actually pulled inside the School of Intimacy. So we chatted about different taboos that society still has. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a few generations because before our educational system finally starts teaching these important skills, like skills how to communicate, how to have healthier sexuality, how to honor your boundaries, how to experiment, how to know yourself, how to love yourself. So the School of Intimacy teaches you so much. It teaches you sexual practices for men and women. It teaches you about sexuality types, which is essential if you ever want to have sexual compatibility. There's different tantric rituals that you can practice solo or with your partner. I like there is another course which I love, and it talks about how through the understanding of chakras, why men and women argue. It's one of the best systems I have ever come across that can resolve any issue with the couples. So everything you need for better relationships, for better love life, and for better sex is inside the School of Intimacy. So you can head to my website, which is magdakay.com, and you can find in the menu, the navigation, you can find the School of Intimacy, read more about it. And if you would like to, you can join us even for a month. Just, give it a go, see what it's all about. I honestly highly, highly recommend it. And you asked before, how can couples start talking about it? One of the things I've seen with my clients is that they join the School of Intimacy together, they watch the courses together, and so then they discuss these things. So that's a really easy way to add more openness in your relationship. If you want to change old patterns and start talking about it, it's a very easy way to do it, just by going through these courses together and having a discussion. What you thought, which one would you like to try? So totally, totally recommend this.
I think I say, and I love this word. Unfortunately, I probably use it too much, but it's an amazing opportunity. Opportunity is knocking. Opportunity is the availability to improve your life or to improve those lives around you. So please take an opportunity to, I'll have everything in the show notes. I'll have a link there as well. So it's easy for let me try that in English. I will have a link in the show notes to allow anybody who's interested to just follow that link, and they'll go right to your website, and they can find the courses and the book and everything else. And what a great deal with the book. I think that, yeah, you need to go there and grab the book. It's a buck. It's a buck. It's a
Yes,
buck.
it's $1, guys. Like, I mean, look, the realities of being an author is that you don't have a book to make money. It's not how the market works these days. So for me, it's like, okay, what can I do to inspire more people to have it? Because honestly, there's so many systems or tools that I teach. And when I chose to become, to write a book, I was like, okay, what is the most important thing that I have taught my clients that made the biggest difference for them? And I was like, that's the system. And because I wasn't really sharing the system with a lot of people before, because it's my
Yeah.
own thing. It's not something you study in some official institutes. It's not like a psychological concept that's been proven, with science. It's something I developed. So I was always like, well, it's just my idea. And then like my friends were like, no, Magda, this is like the coolest thing you teach. It's my favorite tool. I was like, okay, we got to get this out to people. It's very simple. I personally, in my life, I use only 3 tools. And we talked about, I was in Mind Valley. I really learned a lot, like a lot. I have only 3 go-to tools, and that is one of them. So I really cannot recommend this book enough.
And you all
So
can get that tool
celebrate it.
for $1. You all can just
Yeah,
get it for a
exactly.
dollar. Get it for a
Celebrate
dollar.
1 year anniversary just by paying $1, and you're gonna get the full book. You're gonna get meditations that come with it. You're gonna get the quiz, which will tell you which of the 4 power centers is currently running your life. This is super important to know what's happening, why maybe some things are not working in your life. So all of it, just $1. Totally. Go to Amazon. That's where you're gonna get your Kindle. $1. Start enjoying this, and it's such an easy read.
Congratulations on your 1 year anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
So
Thank
now, does
you.
that start in the month of May? Is that correct, or is that now?
Yes, yes, it's May. So May is our month of celebration. The exact date is May 25th. Now, because you have some Italian roots, so you may be familiar with this. May 25th is my name day. Are you familiar with name
I
days?
am.
Yeah. So in Poland, is a Catholic country, we celebrate name days, which is basically like your name having a birthday. And so 25th is the birthday of Magda, and I love my name. It's of course linked to Mary Magdalene. There's the whole lineage of Rose and the priestess practices that are linked to this saint. So it's very much aligned. So May 25th is the magical actual date, but the whole month we're celebrating the whole month.
Well, happy name day too. I mean, this works.
Yes.
Magda, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
It's been an absolute wonderful conversation. I could talk for a whole nother hour, but we could save that maybe for another show. Love to have you back on. I think that
Very happily.
what you bring to the world is something that I think we all need. You again bring us something that we can connect again and learn to communicate again and regain our intimacy. Or if maybe you're just starting out on this journey of love and life, and this will be an introduction to learning how to do it the right way from the
Mm.
beginning. So yeah, we'll make sure everybody gets to check you out. This is one more thing before you go. So before we go, do you have any words of wisdom that you can share?
Oh my goodness. If I can end this conversation with one thing, would be close your eyes and just sit with yourself for a moment, and try to do it a bit more often.
Those are brilliant words of wisdom. I think we should all do that. We should all do that. Yes. That's all I can say is yes. Magda, again, thank you very much. I honestly appreciate
Thank
everything. I'll
you.
make sure
Thank you
that
so much.
the link will be in the show notes for everybody to kind of follow you and to get where you need to go, or where they need to go to connect with you. And how wonderful, absolutely wonderful day. You have enlightened me so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and to everyone listening.
And for all you out there, please remember that one more thing before you go. We value you as part of this community and part of the One More Thing Before You Go family. So please have a great day, have a great week, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.